Many thanks, everyone. Great to see a room full of people who are interested. I won't say dog lovers, it might be a bit early to say that yet, but people who are interested in all conversations around dogs. And a very special welcome to our canine companions. Always joyful when you are in a room talking about the subjects and the subjects are there. So I think after that really heartfelt introduction and also these beautiful videos, I'm not quite sure what else I'm going to ask, but we are at a time where I'm sure what is happening in Delhi, NCR, is something that everyone is aware of. So a part of the conversation today will also be around our relationship or our current relationship with dogs. But of course, first, I think Rohit, we've said this a million times, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous work. It's lyrical. Congratulations once again. And I think it's especially wonderful that we are talking about rain dogs in the monsoon in Goa, which is where you shot this entire book. I wanted to maybe begin by reading out Tina Brown's comment on rain dogs. She says, Rohit Chawla is one of the most brilliant and magically original photographers and art directors in the world. This wonderful book intersperses writings, quotes and poetry with bleakly beautiful images of canine consolation. A dog lying alone amongst the driftwood, watching a solitary fisherman, or curled up contentedly behind the dark, jagged rocks. The haunting cover picture of the migrant gazing out at the ocean with his dog captures the sorrow and desolation during that difficult period of the pandemic. Rohit captures, with poignancy and sensitivity, everything that we love in dogs. I see consolation, joy, unquestioning love, partnership, and a quietude that is magical too. So let me begin the discussion, Rohit, by asking you, tell us the story behind Rain Dogs. What inspired you to change your models, move from human to canine ones, and how did the book come around really?
Everybody believes there's some great design in life to do things. Well, nothing like that ever happens in my life. Everything is spontaneous, there's no grand design or plan. We were just stuck in the pandemic in Goa, and I chose to live on the beach, and perforce these dogs were my only company. In fact, because the world was so bereft of all distractions and everything, that I got to see the inner lives of the dogs in a very, should I say, splendid setting in the monsoon in Goa. Bleakly beautiful. And I ended up shooting about 10,000 images over a period of 2-3 years. And these pictures would sort of lay in my camera and my phone. And I didn't think too much about it. It's like I was recording them for my own joy and benefit. But my wife, Saloni, who's here, she got a little fed up with me because every time I used to go to a different part of the world, I used to shoot dogs on water bodies of sorts. It became an impulse in my head that needed fruition. So she suggested I do the exhibition. The exhibition gave birth to the book, and Hemali and the dog lovers at HarperCollins came on board and helped me produce a book. And so that's how it happened. I mean, it's also serendipity that this book is being launched at a time when the conversation on dogs is center stage in our life. So I'm hoping in some small way that this book does sensitize a whole country in parts to the lives of these dogs, and I think that would serve its purpose.
I also wanted to talk about the form of Rain Dogs, in that it's an interesting departure from what you usually do. You have writers contributing very beautiful pieces. What made you think of that? Why was it not just your photographs?
I've always been, I'm also intimidated by writers, first of all, let me say. As a photographer, they're the most self-effacing of the subjects that I do. But I wanted a book to have a certain lightness of touch. So, I didn't want it to be one of those curatorial, obtuse notes which curators write to make sense of nonsense. So I asked,
Curators, please don't listen to this. This is the time for you to shut your ears, but yeah, go on. We are in a museum, but okay.
but it's like I wanted the simplicity of what a dog meant to 30 different writers who I liked, who happened to be my friends. And so they wrote completely unpretentious prose, which I thought made a bit of an addition to the book. And this book, I chose not to do it in a large table format because I wanted to be something intimate. This is not about the snow leopard in Ladakh or something like that. So everything happened organically. I mean, like I keep saying, I spent 22 years running a big advertising agency or being part of it, and everything in my life was about the staged image. I mean, I used to bully prime ministers, Jeff Bezos, Robert De Niro. I mean, the camera has this incredible power to make most people vulnerable for just 5-10 minutes when you have it with you. That is if they believe that you know your craft. All right, so for the first time, I attempted to do these pictures where I was not in control of anything. The dogs would never listen to me. They would never come to a place which I would want them to come to because they were stray dogs. The sea would bring its own set of surrealistic props every high tide. So, and then the monsoon had a language of its own. So for me, it was a study in patience, and going to the same spot something like 10, 15 times, and getting to do. One day the dog would be at the right place. Like there's this, my favorite picture in the book is about this guy in black who's like fishing, but it's almost like conducting the monsoon symphony or the monsoon aria. I mean, I must have photographed that guy about 10, 15 times, but only one day his dog was there, his tail was curled in the right way. So, that magic of the decisive moment came out of patience in this case.
This is something you and I have spoken about earlier, which is how difficult was it really to, at the end of the project, move away? Because here you have dogs, clearly, I won't say necessarily displaced, but struggling. And I think the pandemic actually showed us, and we'll talk about Atul's beach dogs initiatives in a bit, but I think the pandemic showed us how lonely these dogs were, very often struggling for survival. And it's the classic question of how do you actually work with that dichotomy? You want to talk about that a bit?
It's like I was living on the beach in a room which was spectacular, but I had learned not to look at the dogs in the eyes, because if I looked at the dogs in the eyes, they would follow me for miles. And it was heartbreaking because I could look after 8, 10 dogs, but I couldn't look after thousands of dogs on the beaches, and they were bereft of human company. So you just looked at them. So it was heartbreaking not to look in their eyes and just pretend to walk like most people do on the beaches. One of the things about dog bites, we'll come to that, is that if you want to avoid a dog bite, try not to look into the eyes of the dog, and the dog will leave you alone. So I was trying that same discipline in the pandemic. But and these pictures, I didn't want them to be sad pictures. I didn't want them. There's a certain quietness and a quietude to them, but they're about the inner lives of the dogs when they were on their own in that time and place. In the middle of the night, sometimes on a full moon night, there used to be these gangs of Asaipur fights on the beaches, with dogs from Ashram fighting with the dogs of Mandarin. It was surrealistic. So there was beauty, there was violence in its own kind, but it was a special time. So I was just lucky that I got to record it.
And I think I do also want to mention here that all proceeds and Rohit's royalties and everything is going towards animal welfare organizations. So it doesn't end with just shooting the book. I think there's a lot that happens beyond as well.
Yeah, this exhibition now, Tata Trust wants to take it across the country, and everything about these pictures, the book, everything goes to dog charities. So please feel free to buy the books because the dogs will be happy.
Katharina, you moved to Goa a few decades ago?
22 years.
22 years, right. And of course, in Goa in particular, you see a lot of indie dogs. I think, and that's something that we were also talking about briefly. It is remarkable how people have embraced indie dogs. Do you want to tell us a bit about some of your early interactions? And I know you also wanted to talk about the cultural background of dogs in India. Do you want to just share some with us?
Maybe I start with Rohit. What you mentioned, vulnerability in people that you're shooting. And I think this is a very kind of important point of what I so love about dog photos Rohit is shooting. There is this moment that you catch, not just with people. I've seen it when you took pictures of me, and you can see it in all his portraits. There is that split second where he gets something. And the same happened with the dogs. So you might not look them in the eyes, but you catch that split second of vulnerability, and that's not something one can learn as a photographer. You have it or you don't have it. Maybe it reflects your own vulnerability, I do not know. But it's something amazing that comes across in the pictures. Coming to your questions of being here, I come from a country or culture in Europe where people pretend to be very dog friendly, and in fact many of them are, but behind the scenes, culling and killing of dogs that are not owned is normality. People don't even question it, as much as the meat industry is kind of hidden away. We are not in those countries confronted with the pain, with the suffering. And in India, in these 20 years, we have this split. There is a tremendous cruelty, partly also because people themselves are so violated in whether slum areas and so on. And on the other hand, you have a kind of cultural, let me call it the cultural unconscious. There's something that has been carried for centuries through the scriptures, through practice, whether it is Buddhist monks or whether it is most radical, the Jains. And somehow this is ingrained in, I think, the Indian mind or the unconscious cultural feeling about animals. There's not this barrier of possessing, of owning, but there is a more permeable way of accepting that other beings, whether it's cows on the roads or wildlife, have a right as much as we have a right to exist here. And that is right now violated with, as we all kind of probably feel the same, with the Supreme Court order. So I feel that despite the differences and despite the cruelty that exists here, very much you will be able to talk about that, there is an underlying a cultural image that we have of the other, which hopefully, will do something in the debate of how we treat others and how we respond to that crisis that we are facing in Delhi.
Atul, I've said this so many times, you're a hero. I think there's no other word for it. What you do at WAC, what you've been doing for decades, day in and day out, saving animals, not just dogs, but cows, rabbits. I mean, how many animals do you have at WAC now?
180.
180
That's
animals.
the resident, and then every day we have rescues and
Yes.
yeah. And,
I did want to actually bring up the Beach Dogs initiative that you've been running for a while, and maybe give some context on what actually happens during the off months when people are not around. So do you want to maybe just talk a bit about that? And I then thought we could begin with your thoughts on the Supreme Court present ruling.
Yeah. So I moved here from the UK for a quieter life about 20 years ago, and as some of you will know, Goa was a very different place. Siolim was just a single tarmac road and the rest were all buffalo tracks. And we had our first ATM opening where people were coming and asking how the money got through the wire from the and now the same people have iPhones, which I don't have. So it's really changed. For the better and for the worse, of course. So 20 years ago, it was very different. I went to the beach for a walk for the first time in the monsoon. I was shocked to see same dogs that were playing, in April, getting fed, getting their bellies rubbed, half were dying under tarpaulin and a lot of dead puppies. So I thought, oh, this is not good. So we started our beach feeding program, which also included picking up puppies when they were ready for adoption, sterilizing the mums and the dads. But then I soon realized that it was not enough just to take them to WVS, because they were also sometimes shut. So we opened WAG, and since then we've done about, I think, 10,000 sterilizations, a lot of the beach dogs as well. And then came COVID. I think it was 2020. That was quite a learning curve, because by then we'd set up a lot of feeders which were really, really helpful. But then all of a sudden we were not allowed to go out. Some of the feeders were going out on their bikes and getting hit with lathis, with sticks, with the policemen, saying, go back now. So it was really terrible. For 3 days the dogs were starving, we had no food. I remember running after a small truck full of potatoes, running with my staff, and then followed by some Russians, and then followed by 4 dogs. It was really, really sad. It was a desperate time. So then luckily we got Maneka Gandhi to issue feeder cards to all the feeders, but that even took 2 days. So it was a learning curve, and even for my cows, we had no food. We were told it comes from Karnataka, there's a special permit. It wasn't happening. So we had to put up requests for people to bring jackfruit leaves, banana leaves. So it was a lesson that, for next time we have to be more prepared. And the dogs were starving, they were relying on us. Yeah, so, that's it. If you want to talk about the Supreme Court?
I think we said that is a very pertinent question. And I think, to put it in context, I think no one is saying that there isn't a problem. I think we recognize that there is something that needs to be done. What we are saying is that the solution of relocation, which in this case means displacement, is not the right one. So I think it would be useful first to get your thoughts about someone who's actually worked in this area for so long, in terms of maybe also why we are where we are. We've spoken about ABC not working, we've spoken about various things, but maybe a bit about that.
Yeah.
And then we thought we could just open up the conversation to what people think about this. And we'd also love to hear from the audience, because this really is a larger conversation that's playing out.
So a lot of this, the verdict is changing all the time. So at the moment, I think, from as far as I know, there's a stay on the order because it's not practical. However, scarily, it's also been trying to be implemented in Goa. And there's lots and lots of reasons why it's a complete, stupid, nonsense idea. But there's other interesting things to note as well. I'm not a conspiracy person, but there are weird things. For example, if you get bitten by a dog, so you have to have 6 shots, right, in theory. So every shot is counted as a bite. So this will exaggerate the numbers. So just small things like that. But on a bigger scale, the simple answer is incompetence from the government. Since 1947, we got independence, nothing's been done by the government. And unfortunately, same in Goa, there's not a single government sterilization center. Only the NGOs are doing. So in a nutshell, it's incompetence. So we have to now fight that by saying, let's try and sterilize as many as we can and put them back, because that's the solution.
So I need to add something here, that Goa, by the way, has very few cases of rabies, or there are no cases of rabies in Goa. Sikkim, Hyderabad, that's because of the sterilization, the vaccination in Goa, all done by NGOs and nothing to do with the government. And then this point about 30,000 bites in Delhi that they talk about, please first divide that by 6. And then those bites are from monkeys and mostly from pet dogs. So this entire figures that are being thrown at you are nothing but fraudulent projections being done just to suit the narrative that the government wants to do. So please question those figures. Ask people how did they arrive on those figures, and then you will see the answers will become evident. And it's not, it's like appalling. This city, Goa, one of the most gorgeous cities in India, states in India, can't solve the garbage problem.
Yes.
We can't fix our roads. Now we're going to take 10 lakh dogs and put them in shelters and expect our government to look after them? I mean, this is absurdity to another level. I mean, it defies common sense. So that's it. That's all I have to say about it.
I think we all agree on that totally. And on top, there are studies that are out since years, since decades actually, that displacing animals or dogs does not solve the problem. I have seen it myself when we moved to Goa at the beach. Strangely, after each monsoon, the beach dogs at that special corner disappeared. They were actually murdered by one of the beach deck owners because they felt just, annoyed by the dogs. What did it do? It opened up the space for other dogs to come in who were not sterilized, who were, not used to the people. So the whole problem of just pushing it out of our sight is completely insane. However, I feel we need to take the debate seriously. There are a lot of people who have anxieties of dogs, who hate dogs, and if we are not deeply listening, I think what needs to be done is really listening. If we are just patting our own backs that we are morally superior in protecting the dogs won't be helped. So we need to have hands-on conversations with these people. And as you said, I mean, ABC is an amazing program, and it has worked in certain states where Sikkim, I think even Ladakh has succeeded quite a bit.
Even Hyderabad.
Yeah, so we know it can work. The problem here is the lack of, let's say, putting in a system. You sterilize some dogs, put them back, you're not kind of following it up in the right way. So that needs to be the public effort now to make the government do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's actually, it's good to make it clear, but what I meant by the government help can be in three ways. So one is the huge fund that comes from the center. Secondly is the ministries within Goa, so you have the Animal Husbandry Ministry. And third is panchayats and municipalities. So for me, the biggest culprits are the panchayat and municipalities. I hope there's no important people from those places. But it's very much like their attitude is, oh, okay, you've got a scheme, you've got money coming, so what are you complaining about? But they have to be more enthusiastic, okay, there's a piece of land, we can help you with this. So the money actually does come from central government recently, but I wouldn't say it's being misappropriated, it's just not being used for want of not wanting to do any work.
No, that's right, and I think part of the problem also with sterilization that we've heard is that when dogs are picked up to be sterilized, they are often not brought back to their own location.
Yes,
They are brought back to different locations. And that causes conflict with those neighborhood dogs.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think, it has to be seen all the way through.
Yes.
We have voters, when they go to vote, they put a thing on your finger so that you know you voted. There has to be a mechanism of dogs which have been sterilized or who are, vaccinated. So the people needn't be afraid. There has to be some sort of a marking also done, so that the same dogs are not picked up over and over again. There's a huge mess. Simple common sense solutions are completely missing in this country. It doesn't require rocket science to do the things that you expect an ordinary government or municipality to do. It's just not done because of the lack of intent, and also because money is a very powerful tool in this country. It's misused in almost every department. So this is no exception.
Yeah, so just in case some people are wondering, so how would we do this? Just a small story, I think Shivani, so Shivani Mathur moved over to Goa about 8 years ago, and she called me and said that her precious pug, I think it was, Watson, had passed away, so she wanted to do something for him. I was like, okay, some people give 1,000 rupees, some people... But she said, no, I want to do something bigger. I want to do sterilizations in the south. Because she'd been there and she was heartbroken by what she saw. So within 6 months, by herself, with lots of help, she got 2,400 dogs sterilized in the Margao area. And you know Shivani, I think, yeah. So she hired this huge hangar in the Margao KTC bus stand or whatever it's called. And as you said, then correctly, everything was in system. Area 1, the dog gets operated. Area 2 is there for 5 days. And Area 3 ready for release to the right place. And so it shows if one lady can do it, then any government, any board can do it. Yeah.
This room can solve the problem on the beaches of North Goa if we put a mind to it. You know, we're enough, there are enough like-minded and, fortunately some of us can afford to do these things. So we must do a bit and look at the stretch of beach around your area close to where you live and sterilization is the only answer really. You can't do this, what the government is proposing at all.
No, and also patience. I think it's going to be a while before you see results. It's not going to be an overnight process. There are no overnight solutions to a problem like this.
I think it's also manifold. It goes along with education. Like in the village I live in Vinaulim, a lot of people have dogs and they love their dogs, but they don't really care about them. They run around, they roam around, they refuse to get them sterilized because it's just not what they want to do. And so that adds to the problem. So I think education also needs to be there in schools of, addressing the fear of children and so on. So it has to be on many levels, but I find it too easy to let the government off the hook and just, having all us citizens doing it. There needs to be public pressure and to enforce a political will to cooperate with the dogs that we are living with. And that can only be kind of also on a government level. I don't know if you would agree to that.
Yes,
but I feel there needs to be, the media needs to write about it, we need to write letters, we need to act also politically on this.